Number 1, we should all know about fixed value and expression value. See here, the word high is fixed. Usually if you want an expression, you would want to click here, but you can actually clear the input and press the equal sign to switch to an expression. Number 2 is for pinning data. Here I am running a perplexity search looking for the term, what is N8N? This output has a fee attached, but if we pin it, we don't need to resubmit another perplexity call when we run it again later. Now we don't need to spend money to submit another API call. This saves money on nodes that cost and time on nodes that load slower. I can keep the data on standby, so when I use this trigger to run it again, I don't need to spend any more money. Then we can use the data here to continue mapping out the workflow variables. Tip 3 is mock data. We can set data inside of any node or a trigger where we can click on the top right pencil and fill in some test data for the workflow. This is like pinning data where I can add a field called query and a value for test. Now it's pinned and we can use this to map the rest of our processes. Great for doing a when executed by another workflow trigger because it removes the need of the main workflow to trigger the side workflows for each test. Quick extra tip, when pinning data, just click on the node and hit P to pin or unpin like this. Number 4 is about moving between nodes. If you're in a node config panel and don't want to click out before entering another node, just click to the right or left of the page to move between them. If you see here, I have a node 1 selected. I can use the arrow keys to select another and hit enter to get inside of it. Number 5 is deactivating nodes. You open the drop down and click activate, or just highlight the node and press D for a shortcut. If you're working and see the resolve outstanding issue error, just click the node and press D to reactivate the node. Tip 6 is organization. 2 parts to this tip. First is using sticky notes. You can create one by clicking here, or just press Shift plus S, then double click the sticky note to edit. We are using Markdown and that allows different headers and bold text, etc. I like using GPT to create these and save time. You can even color code the sticky notes to keep them organized by group. This is really useful when reviewing your project. Part 2 of this tip is about noding names. You can click the node and click here to rename it, or just click the node and hit F2 to save time. Tip 7 is workflow history. Like a Google Doc, you can see old project saves that you can restore. Just click on this icon here and it shows the workflow history. Now click Actions to restore the workflow you want, download it, or even clone it. Tip 8 is about adding a node. Just press Tab to get that menu open to get started. Tip 9 is about N8N attribution. I'll just deactivate these nodes and explain this one. If you send a message through email, Telegram, or Slack, for example, N8N will add a message saying this was sent by N8N. If we go in the node, add an option, hit append N8N attribution, and flip the switch, you won't have that message anymore. Works the same for Telegram just like this, but in Slack you actually want to hit include link to workflow, then flip the switch like before. Different integrations have some differences, but usually the steps are pretty much that. Okay, double digits. Tip 10 is current date and time. If you have an AI agent or any node that needs date and time, or if you just want to send a timestamp to Google Sheets, just make sure you're in an expression, make 2 curly braces, and you'll see the $now function. Now your agent has the right date and time. Also type .format to format the code exactly how you want. Tip 11 is really dope. It can give the ability to save your credentials while making API calls. I use Perplexity, Tavily, and OpenAI image generation a lot, so I don't want to make copies of my API key every time I set up my HTTP request. So just go in here, set your authentication to generic, set your auth to header or query or whatever you need. Now it shows the header authentication you have saved here. Basically same as your setting header auth down here, where you usually type name and bare space API key. You can just do that here. See how I did it? 2 things this does. 1, save the key every time I use Perplexity. 2, hide my API keys when recording. Cool if you're sending a project template to someone because it won't add your API key. Another example I did with OpenAI here. And same with Tavily. Extra tip, press 1 to zoom out and press 0 to zoom in. Back in action. Number 12 is error workflow. If you use this native integration error trigger, you can link it to your active workflows. The trigger will start whenever your workflow has problems. It can send email notification, text messages, or whatever you need if your workflow breaks. I'll be making a full video on that later, so stay tuned. Tip 13 is workflow variables. I'll show you what I mean now. You can reach execution ID, workflow name, workflow ID, and workflow active yes or no with workflow variables. Just drag and connect this and click test workflow. Then go back here and see this left section variables and context. It has $now, $today, execution, and workflow variables. Boom. Tip 14 is you can specify input when sending data from main workflow to secondary workflow. Just go in the trigger, what you choose is accept all data. That puts all incoming data into the query field. But if you choose define using fields below, then set it to receive phone number, receive email, and receive customer name, it will pre-stage those 3 fields so you can map later. This saves time and effort. Want to add in mock data? Just click the pencil, set those fields, then map the rest of the workflow. Tip 15 through 17 kind of go together. Check it out. This agent is going to send an email to nate@example.com asking if he enjoys playing with sand. Okay, so I'll grab this trigger so we can activate, connect it, and hit test workflow. So this will use the sub workflow email agent and it will give the okay that the message was sent. 15 is about sub execution data. So we can click on this tool, then call the click view execution. This shows the full process of the call we made so we know for sure it worked. See here, it didn't really even call the send email tool, and we couldn't know that until we checked sub execution data. If we go into the agent, you can see it tells us I've sent an email to Nate asking if he enjoys playing with sand. This would mislead us into thinking it worked even though we know now it didn't. Tip 16 is agent logs. Go into the agent log, see what it did. First it read through system prompt and took action. No system prompt for this agent as you can see here, so not much to read. Next it called the email agent. We can see exactly what was sent over the tool and the response. Because it sent an email without any direction, that confused the sub workflow. Then it sent back this email in the response. Finally, the main agent got that response from the tool, and that made it think the email was sent, causing the agent to say the process was successful. Tip 17 is copy to editor. I'll go back to the sub workflow execution. I can click copy editor. That pulls in live data that we saw in the execution. Now we can change it. This is the query sent from the main agent. We can remap and test it to make sure it works right. So tip 18 is human in the loop node. If I restart these, then hit the tab, it shows human in the loop nodes that say wait for approval or human input before continuing. This works for Discord, email, Google Chat, and all these here. Essentially, we have an action to send something to Discord, for example, then wait for a human response. Let's check out an example with Slack. For this, we can just send an approval, just a button that says yes. We can change that request to approval or disapproval. This adds a yes or no button. We can add a custom form or free text. That lets us get a human written response instead of just yes or no. Tip 19 is standardized input. I'll start these 2 nodes and break this down. We have an agent listening for a field called json.message.text. If we click test workflow and our Telegram trigger is listening, I can open this and say hi. Notice the agent got the message and processed it because it came from Telegram in a field called json.message.text. If we try using the native N8N chat, it will error out because no prompt is selected. What the native chat got is a field called chat input. The goal is standardized input to allow multiple forms of communication. I just need to connect the set node with the N8N AI agent. That takes the message and puts it in a field that matches this field and we're all good. Now if I say hi, the agent can understand it because it came through the field called json.message.text. Tip 20 is continue on error. So we have 3 URLs in this code node, McDonald's, Chipotle, and a fake URL. When we hit test workflow, see it loop through all 3 of those and give back the HTML result from the first link. Here's the third, and the second one is here. But it doesn't tell us the false URL failed with a 404 error. The first 2 gave us good HTML. The reason the workflow didn't stop because in the settings we have it set to continue on error. If I set it to stop workflow, it will break on error and not complete the job, even though only the 3rd URL was broken. Think about if you had 1,000 URLs instead of just 3 and the last one failed. Not really, because we know we can copy it to the editor for access, but it is a speed bump that we don't really need. This goes into tip 21 where you can have it continue on error with an error output, another option in the settings that you can see here. That makes anything that errors go to the error output branch. We can request that anything good follow the normal path while any errors send an email saying, hey, this one didn't work. This doesn't even need to be an HTTP request or an AI agent node. Basically, every node can do this within N8N. Tip 22 is other settings. Each node is different, so double check for your node. But under settings, you can have SLL certs if using HTTPS. Have it always output data because sometimes it doesn't give any data, but you still need the workflow to continue. Make it only execute once. Really nice not needing to limit it manually. Have it retry on fail and set how many retries and wait times. But again, each node is different. Like this node doesn't have the SLL certs. Or like this node has duplicate items, so you can tell it how many times to duplicate. Good for testing. You can also leave notes. They don't impact the function, but great for sending a template to a team member or remembering things on the fly. Now tip 23 is agent structured outputs. Here I'm telling the node output 4 stories. This will output 4 scenes from one item in one object. Check it out. These are the 4 stories: the missing key, the last leaf, Midnight Bakery, and Quantum Leap. I can hit this switch for require specific output to make this tool that I can drag into my structured output parser that basically organizes the output. Then you can have ChatGPT generate the JSON example you need. Now when I run it, the output is organized in 4 sections. Now we can see the 4 outputs that I can use for whatever I need. Okay, so 24 is an array function. Here we have a list of food: apple, banana, steak. Now if we look here, you'll see the output is in a super ugly version of apple, banana, steak. Now I can open this section and use an array at the end called .join. Now it's separated with commas. But if we click the parentheses, we can tell it how we want the array separated. I throw in 2 quotes and now they're together. I can put 1 space, 2 spaces, and with spaces. This is how we can split up the items. You can also add a /n to line break. You can also do multiple line breaks to really space out. All right, we made it. Final tip is the ability to replace. Good example is replacing double quotes with something else. Here we see we have the query pineapples on pizza. Now we should search the internet for pineapple pizza. But as you might know, it won't work to have double quotes inside double quotes in a JSON body. For a quick fix, go in here, grab this function, back in the HTTP request, open the expression, and paste this at the end to remove those double quotes like you see here. Now if I run this, it will work with no problem at all. Check it out. We got the answer right here from Tavi. Congratulations, you made it through 25 tips for N8N productivity. If you learned anything, please leave a like. It actually really helps me out a lot. Thanks for sticking around for tips 1 through 25, and until next time, peace.